So now that you've seen sponsored brand and sponsored display and their placements, I want to talk about when should you use them and a few warnings about using sponsored brand and sponsored display. Obviously, they're very powerful. You have headline search ads, you have video, you can be inside of the product detail page, but when should you use them? So the first case we've obviously covered in a previous module, protecting your brand. So protecting your brand name. So all of the different types of ads that you can run for your brand name, sponsored products, sponsored brand, sponsored display, you just want to protect your brand name as much as possible. Even if you don't think someone's searching for you, it's pushing out other people that could be there. So you don't want someone else to be there and steal your sales. So protect your brand name. That's a really good way to run sponsored brand, sponsored display. The second option is, what if you're already winning with sponsored products? You're ranking on page 1, you're getting profitable sales. You could test sponsored brand and sponsored display. You could test a headline search ad. You could test a sponsored video. But here is a warning. Sometimes sponsored video will start getting clicks and sales with a really good ACoS. However, it is actually not bringing in any new people. That's why we have the analytics sheet. The analytics sheet tracks the number of sessions and the cost per session. So what happened to me once was I was running sponsored products. The results were amazing. I ran sponsored video because we thought, hey, sponsored video is great. It's converting really well. Everyone said that the ACoS is really good. So I ran that sponsored video. I started getting a lot of spend and a lot of sales, and it looked really good. But my sponsored products started to suffer. So I went back and I looked and I said, what is my total spend and my total sales for the period without sponsored video? I took a 30-day period or a 14-day period. And then I said, what is it now? What is my total spend now and my total sales now with video? And what I noticed was that the amount of money that I spent more on PPC versus total sales didn't make sense. I was basically getting 100% ACoS. So if I spent $100 on sponsored video, I only made $100 more in sales, which wasn't very profitable. But if I just looked at Campaign Manager, it looked like sponsored videos results were really good. And so that's why we have the analytics sheet. So you could track everything and you can look at the impact of spend versus sales, total sales, not just PPC sales, because sometimes attribution gets a little bit messed up. So there's my warning for you guys. If you're already winning organically or with sponsored products for a certain keyword and you launch sponsored video or headline search ads, you have to make sure that you're tracking total spend, total sales, and making sure that if you're spending $1,000 a week and now you're spending $1,500, if your sales were $2,000 a week, they should be at least $3,000 or something that is significant that shows, okay, for that extra $500 that I spent, and I made an extra $2,000. And that's your actual ACoS or ROAS based on sponsored video. And the only way you can get there if you do one thing at a time. So if you launch a bunch of sponsored video and headline search ads and all of these different things at once, you can't track what's causing what. So you need to do it in a sort of controlled experiment where you change one factor at a time and you try and figure out what the results of that factor are. Another really great way to use sponsored display is through retargeting. So sponsored display has a feature, and we're going to cover sponsored display in detail in another module, but it's the retargeting feature. Basically, you can retarget people who visited your listing, you can retarget people who've purchased from you, and you can retarget people who visited similar products as well. So it has very cool features. It shows up in the product detail page. However, it's not one of those native ads. People will know that that's an ad. It's not like you're in the listing, you scroll down and you see a bunch of similar products and it looks very native. It does stand out. It's next to the buy box. It's kind of in a weird spot in the detail page. So that's why it doesn't always convert as well as ASIN targeting. But it's a really good way if people purchase your product in the past and you want to kind of capture them again, or they visited your listing but haven't converted, it's a great way to retarget them. Now, the final way that I would use sponsored brand and sponsored display, if you're not able to be profitable with sponsored products on page 1, you can test a different ad. So sometimes video will perform a lot better than just regular sponsored products. Maybe it's like really competitive or something's going on where you're not able to convert on the first page, but you try sponsored video and it works out well. That's why we are a huge proponent of testing. Test all of the different ad types, see what works. But remember, test one thing at a time, look at the incremental change in spend, the incremental change in total sales, and if you can track that change to the factor that you changed, which is sponsored brand or video or whatever, then you can say, okay, I launched sponsored video, I started spending $100 more on sponsored video, obviously you can see that in your campaigns, And then you can say my total sales were on average 1,000, now they're 1,500. And you can kind of make that correlation and say, because of launching sponsored video, now I have more sales. You can also turn off the sponsored video, and if your sales start going back down, then you know that it was because of that sponsored video. So that's how I would use sponsored brand and sponsored display. And I know I mentioned analytics and tracking all of this stuff. In another module, I'm going to show you exactly how to build an analytics dashboard so you can track everything, and it's super easy to figure out what's working and what's not working.